What's going on, Immortals and Shadows? Bishi Bosh here, and today we're going to take a look at the new Inferno drop only weapon essence for the Necromancer, the Ramshackle Scythe. And as always, we're going to stick it in a build. So let's take a look at the item. Okay, so it says Bone Spear has a 50% chance to launch a larger penetrating bone spear that deals 12,924 damage, and the Essence Mastery bonus if max is Bone Spear damage increase by 9%. Okay, so I've removed all my gems that are gonna maybe affect my damage and any essences that are gonna affect the Bone Spear. And so let's go take a look at the damage, eh? Alright, we've got some enemies here. Alright, so that's the big Bone Spear. It's a small one. You see the difference in the damage? Small one, big one. Small one, big one. And you can see the consistency as well. It's pretty good. It comes out quite a lot. There you go. You can see the frequency of how often it's going to proc the larger spear. Okay, so I'm really liking this essence. I think it's a great addition for any build that's using Bone Spear, and works really cool with Blightmore as well. It's a pretty cool combo. So let's just change the essence and add Blightmore to the Ramshackle Scythe and go and have a look at that. Have a look at that in action. Here we go. No big one proc, and there's a big one. Okay, so as you can see, we've put all our gems back in, and so now let's talk about the build. Okay, so for the helm, we're using the Malacluse to make bone spikes into a pit of bone spikes on the ground, continual damage. For the chest, we're using Gallowsborn, so that when we go in Wraith form, we drop corpses. Okay, for the shoulders, we're using Synod's Anointing, so that we can have an extra skeletal mage. For the pants, we're using Proximal Fear, again, so when we're in Wraith form, we can fear those enemies, because I'm using Chip of the Stone Flesh, so we can add lots of good damage there. Okay, so for the main hand weapon, we're using the Ramshackle Scythe, as we've discussed. Okay, so for offhand, we're using Twin Vestige to give ourselves empowered mages. For the other main hand, we're using Blightmore, and for the other offhand, we're using One-Armed Devourer, so that our Corpse Lancers create a Corpse Storm. For the skills, we're going to be using Wraith Form, Bone Spikes, Skeletal Mages, Corpse Lance, and Bone Spear. Okay, so for the greens, I'm using 4-piece Grace at the moment and 2-piece Windloft. I'm really liking Windloft set. I love the mobility it gives, and I'm using this as a farming build at the moment. However, you can use this build for dungeons, for challenge rifts, many different game modes. It just depends on how you want to play with your Paragon for that. So let's look at my Paragon. Of course, I'm using this as a farming build at the moment, so we're going forward Treasure Hunter, and then after that, make sure also any farming build that you have that you go and take this Deeper Pockets node as well. Then after that, I've just gone for damage and life, and stacking a bit of armor and resistance after that. Okay, so let's give you a demonstration of how this build works in action. Firstly, before I get into that, I just want to explain a couple quick things. Now, with a few recent patches, we had some updates, some balances to some of the items. Now, One-Armed Devourer got a buff. It used to be a 3-second cooldown timer in between each cast, and now it's only a 2-second, which has made this a much more viable, more fun skill. So, and Gallowsborn also seems to be dropping more corpses than it used to. not much more, like one extra or something like that, but it's noticeable anyway. So let's check it out, guys. Go in Wraith, create some corpses, drop the tornado, spikes, move on. Big guy there, so we'll drop some mages on him. I've got to wait for these guys to spawn back up. As you can see, really fun build, guys. Really great at loot farming. Way better than a summoner at loot farming as well in these tight little loops, because your summons can sometimes go all over the place and aggro mobs you don't want them to aggro at wrong times, whereas this build doesn't do that. Also, if you have a very competitive loot farming on your server and you might have to push in because people don't want to invite you in or something like that, and there's nowhere else good to farm, this is a really good build. Because you can run around and you can tag the groups of mobs really quickly and easily. With the radius you have on these abilities, you know, you'll tag the mobs and you can keep moving on. Also really good if you're farming with some whales, who their damage is just so high that they kill everything before you get a chance to touch it. So at least this way here, you're going to get those items and everything, because you're going to be able to get those touches in on the monsters. Alrighty, well that's the video for today. I hope you liked the build, the display of the new weapon, all that sort of thing. If you do, give us a like, comment, sub if you want to see more of this sort of stuff and my ugly face, and peace out, y'all.